what should we prepare for? How can we prepare for what's coming?
Yes, we can. Okay, so let's see where we are now at the moment for this moment in time with the COVID and everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we got control. And I love this card because it's all about where are we in control and where we're not in control. And what's happening is a very serious situation between being forced of control onto us and actually where we have the freedom to make those choices of control. So I would say that this is something that's coming up for a lot of people, is not having the freedom to make their choices, that is being imposed onto them. And for a lot of people, they don't really actually believe the narrative of that control. So as I was saying before with the Catholic Church, they just killed you if they can't do that now. So we're in this kind of who's holding control and where is control lying, and actually it comes down to where are you feeling control and where can you maintain that control within a bigger narrative of government control and obviously what's happening in the external. So if the issue has been in control, it's looking at where are you able to find your own inner control, where are you in control of yourself. And it is becoming aware of that dichotomy because some things we can change and some things we just can't at the moment. And it's really becoming very aware of changing the things you can control and actually letting go of those that you can't. Let's have a look at a guidance card. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So maturity. So with the maturity card, it's very much about recognizing there's no, like you were saying, there's no point in fighting what you can't change. And like a kid who has a tantrum, having a big old moan on Facebook because you don't like this or you don't like that isn't really serving yourself or anybody around you. So it's coming into that maturity of accepting what you can accept. It's like the Zen master who picked up the young lady because he knew who he was. And it's coming into that and recognizing where your maturity can lie, because rather than having big tantrums or big fights and imposing your view, you get to a much more mellow state of knowing who you are and finding that inner peace and harmony. And again, the control really comes with that maturity. It's when we're not really understanding who we are. So for me, maturity is actually taking more of an adult understanding of the situation rather than being like childlike in it and shouting and screaming and tantruming, which is a lot of people's default mechanism. But let's pick another guidance card. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Isolation. So I knew it was going to come up. A lot of people are suffering from the isolation and it's been very difficult. And it's recognizing that how do you melt some of the isolation? So if you are in isolation, what can you do to make that easier for you? And again, it comes down to the maturity of knowing yourself and also recognizing where you're in control and where you're not. But my feeling is that there could be more lockdowns and more isolation to come. So it's starting to prepare now for how that might look and how you might be able to prepare for that, and not being so naive that it might not be there. It's not getting too fearful of it, but just having an awareness of it and enjoying every moment that you're not in it, I think. But when the isolation comes, it could mean that there could be some other things happening, and finding ways where you can melt that isolation. And cacao is a fantastic medicine and tonic for isolation. If you haven't taken our cacao on a regular basis, it's an amazing medicine. It releases serotonin and dopamine into the brain. It releases anandamide, which is the bliss molecules, and it makes us feel calm and peaceful and restful. So if you have been feeling quite anxious and stressful, then taking cacao is a brilliant medicine for that. And also, so it's not getting worried about it, but it's just becoming aware of every moment, how to enjoy everything that's around you right now. And again, once we're in maturity, we can deal with these things much more easily. But what's the lesson we're needing to learn? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Consciousness.
Wow.
So what we've been talking about is the shift in consciousness. It's the path of consciousness. This is the lesson. This is the moment of the shift in consciousness. This is it. And we either go into the fear consciousness and control and AI and surveillance and taking away our plants and our rights, and we become basically a slave species, or we take on that consciousness of shamanism, and we take back our human rights. It's the choice that we're now taking, and that's the lesson that we're needing to learn. The final card, the moving forward card, which I always like because it's the action card, what we can do to help the journey. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The burden. And this is a brilliant card because basically this is the ego. The cock at the top represents the ego, and the really well-dressed capitalist is on the shoulders of the beggar who's, being forced up the mountain. And we need to take the burden off. And the burden is this desire to keep on getting somewhere, to have more money, to have the bigger car, to have the bigger house, to consume. It's the burden. It's become a serious burden, and we need to recognize that and come back into unity consciousness and realize there is no destination, that is an itch that will never ever be relieved, and to come back into that consciousness of now shifting that to unity consciousness where we can start repairing. But in order to do that, we have to take off this burden of the ego and come back into the heart. And it really is between fear and love and ego and heart. And coming out of that selfish me, I want this, to recognizing that any act that I do, what is the consequence of that act on the planet and other people? And that is shamanism. That's the belief of shamanism and the consciousness. And the final card is the one underneath, which is what's fueling humanity in the unconscious, and it's adventure. So it's really looking at this as an adventure. We are on an adventure. We don't know where we're going. We're making the choice now. We're running into that adventure as the kid. So it's becoming aware of what adventure you want to create. Is it the adventure of hope and inspiration and, imagination and being an imaginal cell? And what can I do to make this planet healthy for my children and my children's children? Or is it, I'm a victim, this is all shit, I'm helpless, I'm powerless, and therefore, and moving down the control route. So from the control, so it's being fueled by the adventure is what gives us the hope and the inspiration. Like the young 3-year-old that runs into the adventure, it's really saying in order for that consciousness to happen, we have to be like that 3-year-old again and trust that everything is in alignment for us to really step up, be the imaginal selves, and envision a better and brighter future for us and our children and our future generations that are coming. I call them empowerment readings because they're really to empower us to find our way through. So I'm not a psychic and I'm not a fortune teller. Really, it's about recognizing the choices that we have. And what I love about the cards is that they can dig a little deeper when we can't see what's going on deep in our unconscious, and draws that up to the into the forefront. So they're powerful ways of understanding what's happening and helping us to make the next steps, especially in the darkness. And a lot of us are in the unknown right now, and it's a scary time. And when we're in fear, we make horrible decisions, we make wrong decisions. And we make decisions that we often give away our control and our power. So very important that we remain calm, peaceful, loving, inspired, hopeful, and connected to Mother Earth. And our decisions will be based on love and very different to anything based on fear. And that's the shift in consciousness, which the lesson that we've been needing to learn. So it's a beautiful way of wrapping up what I've been talking about for your podcast. So actually, the shift is the shift in consciousness from separation to unity, from patriarchy to, again, bringing back in the divine feminine balance, the yin, the intuition, and the love for Mother Earth and all living things. And it's bringing that back into balance. And we're at the forefront of this. And that's a really that's a real honor to be alive right now. But I also do online shamanic journeys. I do online cacao ceremonies. So if you want to join a cacao ceremony, you've never tried the cacao medicine, then come along and do join a cacao ceremony. They're very beautiful online, very powerful, and very healing as well. And I call cacao the gateway medicine. If you've been wanting to do plant medicines, if ayahuasca's been calling you but you're not sure, then coming to a cacao ceremony is a very good starting point to get an understanding of plant medicine shamanism, and to start getting an understanding of how cacao works and how plant medicine shamanism works. So it's a great starting point. And actually it's a delicious, yummy, gorgeous ceremony as well. Very loving, very, very loving. So if you've been feeling a bit wobbly and a bit anxious, really a loving space to be in, and just being embraced by chocolatey cacao. And it's a time now where more and more of us need to wake up to that, for sure, in order to make those changes that need to be made and to become the imaginal self. And it gets exciting and ready to get going, and feeling empowered again, which is really important.